Hello and welcome. Look at this word right here. Does this capture anybody else's attention this morning? I always think it's funny that it's spring semester in January, but January is almost over, and I have to say that it's not going to be with great mourning that we leave January, in my opinion. Although sometimes February is just as rough. But anyway, on that note, can you tell I'm not really a winter person? We're going to go ahead and kind of float down here a bit. And it looks like, speaking of February, it's right here on us, right? We're starting a new unit this week, and we're going to look at writing as assessment. And I'm going to be really honest. I teach a course for another institution that is entirely about assessments, and so this is going to be just scraping the surface, looking specifically at how we assess writing, and how we craft writing situations for our students that are intentional in what type of assessment we're trying to gather data from, or we want informed teaching, right? So that's kind of what we're aiming for here. Do notice that I'm kind of stretching this out over feedback and communication is going to be the next unit. So while we might start thinking about that, in essence, I'm using 4 weeks for assessment because that's really what we're doing when we're writing. So, okay, we're at the top of the unit, so we're going to go ahead and look at what we're reading this week. And I have found recently some really good extras. So don't be overwhelmed when I send you an email midweek in the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks that has other resources in it. Those are not required reading. And if you are doing something that is relevant, or you're on a news feed from another source that has good material in it, feel free to add. This is not the end all be all list of readings. I'm trying to balance reading and writing, just as you will be trying to balance that in your courses that you teach. Okay, so we have this reading with a teaching with a capital T. That's Atwell's chapters 10 through 14. And basically, this section is talking a lot about the role of the teacher and how it all is going to feed into teaching writing, obviously. This blog is talking about a unique approach to a writing assignment, creating a student user's guide. It's kind of more of a formative writing. We're going to talk about summative and formative assessment, and this might be something that you've already done in another course, but I wanted to provide just a basic resource for you in case you haven't already. So this Tufts education resource is a great review, and it might be something you want to keep open, especially in light of where we're going with the next wiki. If you don't already have the Common Core Standards app on your smartphone, it's available for both iPhone and Android. I'm going to see right now real quick because I keep it really handy who it's by. It's kind of a green. It's by Mastery Connect, and it basically it has all the standards. So those of you who are teaching other standards, this is a great resource. Trying to see if I can show you what the app looks like. It's the green little square with the black dots in it right here. And I keep it in my productivity area because, like I said, it's been great for me. It has standards, resources, and mastery, and there's math, traditional math, integrated language arts, history, social studies, science, and technology. And so obviously I've been working a lot in language arts, but it goes from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I feel like it will really help you. They have the Common Core labeled, they have an explanation, it's a really nice breakdown. You might like a paper source of some sort, but I really recommend that you have something handy. Maybe you were given a flip chart. Those are great too. Like I said, I'm kind of getting to be a fan of this app. I like how it maneuvers. It's very simple. Okay, we're going to talk right from the start about how we're trying to improve students' writing. You probably have all had teachers who do the gotcha type of assignments, where they purposely try to bust you out in a test. And we obviously, that's not, I'm going to go out on a limb here that that's not anybody's favorite way to be taught. And I'm going to also go out on a limb that while we might learn something, it's usually shrouded in sort of a negative experience. So we're obviously trying to improve our students' writing as we teach. So even though we're going to be talking more about creating writing assessments or writing tasks, what we're really also at the back of our mind, what's motivating our creation is that we want to improve student writing, right? We don't want to just catch them doing something wrong. We don't want to just challenge them out of their mind, although challenging them is a good thing. We want to be mindful of it's their writing that we're trying to improve. Okay, faculty focus, again, this is more of a college thing, but I like it because, let's face it, at any age, we want students to analyze, reflect, relate, and question. And what we say and how we say it in our prompts could either thwart that or it could encourage that. My little boy who's in second grade, my youngest one, I have a kind of a feet and hands in all different worlds. We're bringing home a 2-year-old from Ethiopia. We have a high school freshman, we have a middle school sixth grader, and we have an elementary student. So whenever I teach these courses, I'm thinking all of the different things I'm noticing in their learning experiences, except for, of course, the 2-year-old who we don't have home yet. But my second grader's grade card came home this week, and his reading goal for next time, he's a very excellent reader, but they want him to read beyond the text. I'll tell you what, the first time I heard the phrase read beyond the text that I remember was probably in my master's English experience. And the first time I taught that way was about that time, and I pulled out Scholes, who is a literary critic, and I taught students the concept of reading beyond the text to write critical writing. That was high school seniors I used that with, and we're on my kid's grade card, I see reading beyond the text. Now, I know they have different definitions, but I really believe we have to think very intentionally about how we're asking students to analyze, reflect, relate, and question. And I'm not bad, I'm not down on that. I know some people are saying, oh, we're pushing our students too much. And I would argue that sometimes we think we put too much stock in homework. But I think that what we ultimately want to do, we don't want to just create writers, we want to create thinkers, right? What is the point of teaching writing? If a student asked you, why does it matter if I know how to write well or not? We really want them to be analytical, reflective, relational people, right? That's how we see as values in contributing to our society. And so, anyway, I'm waxing all analytical this morning, actually. So, but I just want you to kind of think in those terms. I have caught people off guard with this particular one before, and so that's why I'm spending a little more time talking about it. Graff and Birkenstein have a great text. I might have it right here in my basket even, because I use it in my writing classes at Capital. Oh, no, you know what? I may have lent it out to my 15-year-old, because his freshman teacher is using it as well. But they have a text called They Say, I Say, Moves That Matter in Academic Writing. It's probably one of, I'll even say it's my favorite writing text to use for college students when I'm teaching writing. When I'm teaching writing, not teaching writing. Anyway, this PDF is a nutshell version of what they have. There's more out there if you want to explore that They Say, I Say concept. I love this for, again, all levels of writers. This is written as a university type text, but I believe it's a way that we can teach writing and thinking that is unique and clear to students, especially students who may not have that natural writing instinct. I know some of you have reflected that you aren't a natural writer, that you've grown in your writing. Others of you are very clearly writers, have always been writers, and probably it's sort of like how I feel about swimming. I was raised in water, and I don't remember learning how to swim. I remember setting goals in swimming and knowing that I had to reach the edge, but I don't remember not being able to swim. Some of you probably don't hardly remember. You remember struggling to get to get all of the words in place perhaps, but writing was just part of you. And what I like about this resource is it might be helpful to think of in terms of a formative type of writing exercise for those students who do not have that intrinsic concept of how to put it together. The kid who has the ideas that can't put it on paper. And P.S., it might help some of you who still feel like you might belong a little bit in that category. Okay, Bloom's taxonomy, dust it off a little bit, because we know that if we're going to engage, if we don't get any writing from students, we can't really assess where they're at, right? That's been one of my highest frustrations, especially I teach in an online setting for high school, and it's very hard, the accountability piece, when I never see the students face to face. It's a very good option for many of my students. Many of my students are critically ill or have lots of other reasons that school's not a successful experience for them. But in order to really assess their writing, I've got to get their writing from them. What's going to engage them and motivate them to write? And just looking at the new Bloom's taxonomy, I think that's one of the reasons I want you to look at it this week. The second reason I want you to think about Bloom's this week is as you're writing questions for prompts, making sure that we are hitting at some of those higher levels on Bloom's in terms of the create part. And on that note, I hope you really enjoyed the creativity and assessment video. It is one of my favorite pieces that I found in just teaching in general, but it really applies well to what we're doing. So what are we doing this week? I've kind of talked a lot about the writings because I really want to set you up for those. But the discussion board is an or. You don't have to do both. You can talk about how you see writing as formative and summative. I would encourage you to think outside of the box on this. At what point in a student's writing process do you consider their writing tasks to be formative? At what point are they summative? What are your expectations? What's the difference? Why does it matter that we even recognize that there's different types? You can use your own experiences here. I would say that most of my writing experiences as a student felt very summative. It only counted when it was the final paper. And as a writing teacher, I really challenge that practice. I think it's wrong. We need to do much more formative. So what are your thoughts on that? Talk about that. Or what are your tried and true strategies? I want you to think about how you write, because that's something you're going to model out to students. Because some students are not going to come to you with much writing experience, either because of age or just because of schooling experiences. I know that one of the things that I encountered, even in a very excellent academic situation that I taught in for 10 years, was that the students had never been taught excellent writing. That it was a very small school and everybody had their hands in every pot, and the person teaching writing eventually actually brought his papers to me to help him with his master's program. Great guy, incredible government teacher, but writing was not his strong suit. So what are you going to do what do you do as a writer? What are your tried and true strategies that make you successful? And what are your go-to methods in the writing process that you might be able to teach out to students? That's why I'm posing this question. You don't have to frame it in how you're going to use it to teach, but start thinking about it very intentionally. How is it that I write? And it might kind of surprise you as you really think about putting it onto paper. How do I really write? Not how I intend to write, but how do I what do I do if I have to put out a 2-page paper tomorrow that's research-based? Okay, or you can use creative writing there too. Your blog this week is in green because it is going to end up in your wiki, and this is where I want you just to create a chart or some sort of graphic of your favorite prompts or writing tasks that you find. Some of them might be embedded in these readings, others of them might be places you find, and I want you to start labeling them as formative and summative and which Common Core standard they might tie into. You may be using these later, you may not. So don't feel like you're like totally committed to these, and I'm purposely not putting a number on this. But just throw out some ideas, label them for formative or summative use, label them with what Common Core standard they work with. And this is a brainstorming space, but it's also research driven. So that's what we're trying to balance out here. Okay, have a great week, and you take care now. Keep questions coming.